what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to First Movers, a brand new pulse check series from Enrollify. I'm Rhea Vitalis.
And I'm Andrea Gilbert from Everspring.
In this series, we're sitting down with enrollment leaders who aren't waiting for answers. They're creating them.
These are the teams testing bold ideas, redefining ROI, and adapting in real time to a landscape that refuses to stand still.
Let's dive into today's episode. This week, we're tackling what happens when discovery and demand shift at the same time. Our guest is Dr. Suzanne Zivnuska, Dean of the College of Business at Cal State Monterey Bay. Her work on mindfulness, ethics, and civility informs how she's guiding CSU-MB through an era reshaped by AI and workforce transformation. So with that, let's dive in. Suzanne, thank you for joining us. You joined CSU-MB as dean this past August after 19 years at Chico State, where you worked with our team and generated 10x return on ad investment for the online MBA program. And you're stepping into this moment where university leaders are getting squeezed from two directions at once. On one side, we've got AI just fundamentally changing how students are finding and researching programs. They're using ChatGPT and having full conversations before they ever visit a university website. And on the other side, the workforce is evolving so fast, often faster than curriculum development cycles move. Employers need grads with different skills, more tech-enabled and AI fluent. From your perspective, which disruption feels more urgent, or are they really two sides of the same challenge?
It's funny, I actually see AI and workforce transformation as two sides of really what is the same challenge. AI is changing how students discover our programs. It's changing what they see and how they compare programs and how they decide on programs. And at the same time, the workforce, I think it's really changing what they expect from those programs once students arrive here on campus. So the real task for universities and programs is connecting those dots. How do we use AI responsibly to be able to meet students where they are and redesign learning so that graduates are career ready, adaptable, and really ethical in this AI-driven world? And I think that's a real strength of our program here at CSU-MB. That's our focus, in fact, preparing students to become socially responsible, career-ready grads who are really ready to deeply engage in their communities and approach this changing landscape with a lot of grit and resilience.
CSU-MB's College of Business has a really distinct identity built around responsible business. And I think it speaks to what students and employers say they want. And it aligns with workforce trends around purpose-driven business and ESG priorities. We're seeing AI intercept more and more digital conversations and searches. And so many students actually don't make it to a website until they've already made a decision or they're pretty deep into their research process. If they're not making it to your website and they're not experiencing that differentiation early on in their journey that you control, how do you think about differentiation now, and how do you ensure that differentiation still reaches them?
Yeah, this is such a pressing question. And it's actually one that we were just talking about in an MBA curriculum meeting that we had this morning. What you're getting at here is how differentiation works in an AI-driven world. And when a student goes to ChatGPT or one of the other AI programs and asks questions about which MBA programs might emphasize sustainability, for example, we can't rely on them just finding our website first. We have to make sure that our values live everywhere that our story might surface. And so I think that in the end, what that means is really ensuring that consistent, high quality digital content about our quintuple bottom line, which, if you don't know, that includes people, profit, planet, ethics, and equity, making sure that organizations are holding themselves to all of those outcomes. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that that consistent high quality digital content is accurately being represented by AI about who we are and about that quintuple bottom line. But it's more than visibility, it's credibility. Our alumni, our partners, our projects in sustainability and social impact, they're the data points that AI is learning from. So our real strategy is to keep living our mission really authentically and really visibly. And that way, any system, if it's human or machine, they can't help but see it.
Andrea, how are you thinking about this challenge? When a university has compelling outcomes or a unique curriculum, but the discovery mechanisms have completely changed.
We're thinking about all the time. Differentiation still matters more now than ever. It just needs to be machine readable. We can't rely on the students finding us through traditional search like we used to. So we have to ensure that all of the platforms are recognizing the story. Specifically at CSU-MB, as Suzanne mentioned, we focused on translating the quintuple bottom line into signals that AI understands. We rebuilt pages around intent-rich queries that we are seeing from students, like which MBA emphasizes sustainability, for example, or what are the best and most affordable business programs in California. And by aligning to that structure and metadata and copy with how AI interprets information, we're able to make the university's differentiations discoverable again. And the great news is it's working. We've implemented the AI search visitability solution with the online MBA, and we're already seeing the microsites getting about 3 times more traffic from large language models than the other business pages on the main university site. And that tells us that we've structured and optimized the content and are really connecting with how the AI tools surface this information. So on top of that, 62% of the top organic queries now trigger AI overviews, and we're cited in 58% of them, which is becoming really the new benchmark for visibility. So our focus now is keeping that momentum and making sure that when AI platforms summarize the MBA landscape, they continue to reflect CSU-MB's authentic strengths and values.
Probably everyone is familiar with the changing Google experience because we use it in our day-to-day lives, but to maybe call it out for folks kind of new to what's happening is when you conduct a Google search more and more frequently, that search is being intercepted by an AI summary. And what we're finding is that program websites, that is happening more and more frequently, usually at least 30% of searches that drive traffic to a university site or historically have driven traffic are being intercepted by an AI answer. And so when that happens, you don't need to click through to the result. You are getting the answer in the summary. And so that behavior is becoming less and less trackable. And it's reducing some of the metrics that we have all relied on to measure whether what we're doing is working. And you also brought up intent, which I think is such, there's like a content vein in intent, and then there's also a technical vein in intent. One of my favorite examples that Google actually gave about intent was a search about a trip to Nashville. And it was talking about, I'm looking for things to do in Nashville, off the beaten path. I like music and something else. And what was happening behind the scenes was that Google was actually running a bunch of these micro searches. That is what the machines are doing. They're taking a really specific question that a student has, about their career aspirations or, sharing personal information about, their GPA or, some of their values or priorities, and they're getting a really curated answer from the machines. And so the machines are scraping information on your site and on other sites to produce a highly relevant answer. And the more that you can create unique content to your university and tell Google and the machines and AI that that content is related, the more searches that you're going to be connected to, and the more that those searches are going to be connected to your unique differentiation. I just wanted to unpack that a little bit because there's so much changing, and it's both content strategy and deeply tied to how universities differentiate and technical optimization. You can have the best content strategy and the most differentiated program, and if the machines can't read what's on your site because it's not organized or not optimized on the back end, it won't be discoverable.
That technology and architecture has to come first. We can put as much content as we want on the sites, but if it's not, to your point, being discoverable, it's never going to get in front of them because they're not making it to the website.
Let's talk about that a little bit on the other side of the equation because it's very related, which is what academic programs need to deliver once students do enroll. And Suzanne, you're in the middle of an AACSB accreditation process, which is incredibly rigorous. At the same time, we're hearing from employers and seeing in data that the skills graduates need are evolving so quickly. AI is reshaping entire industries and jobs, and students are asking harder questions around whether their degree will translate into a career that they want. And so how do you balance the rigor of accreditation standards with the agility that employers are demanding? And can those two forces reinforce each other, or are they at odds? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a great question. I actually see AACSB accreditation and agility as really working together hand in hand. On the one hand, we have the rigor of AACSB, and that gives us a really disciplined framework for being excellent. It gives us clear learning goals, continuous assessment, a strong focus on impact. But those same standards are actually what help keep us nimble because they require us to gather and act on real evidence and hard data about what students need, what employers are asking for, how our graduates are performing in the world. So, for example, let's just put it into concrete terms. Part of our accreditation process, we regularly collect input and data from employers, alumni, and community partners. Those are all across sectors, including agriculture, accounting, hospitality, marketing, everybody from local entrepreneurs all the way up through very established large corporations. And that feedback circles back and directly informs what we're doing with our curriculum design. And it makes sure that our students aren't just developing technical skills, but really that they're also developing adaptability and ethics and the leadership capacity that our regional employers are really consistently telling us that they care about and that they value. And that's why we've built our programs around that quintuple bottom line. It naturally integrates AACSB's expectations for societal impact with our region's workforce priorities. So that's why I say that they work hand in hand. Accreditation giving us the rigor and the credibility that students and employers expect, and still ensuring that what we're teaching stays very relevant in such a rapidly changing economy. And when these two forces are coming together and working together, we're not just meeting standards, we're setting standards. We're setting standards for what responsible, career-ready business education really should look like on the entire Central Coast of California.
It sounds like a really strong blend of both the essential skills that are not something that you can just take they're core to the program, and then the tech skills behind it that help you amplify and scale. But you need the foundational skill to be able to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk a little bit about the enrollment marketing reality behind all of this. What we're seeing, and we've seen this across graduate degree programs, is that in early 2025, we were noticing that advertising costs for degree programs were rising, and they were rising substantially, on average 45% year over year. And this was true for CSU-MB as well, that the cost per lead had more than doubled. And again, what was happening was these AI summaries were increasingly showing up in search results. And so that impact both paid ads and also organic listings. Students were getting answers directly from that AI summary. And so they didn't need to click into a university website to get the answer. So traffic and visitors and ultimately leads that marketers were used to being able to pay for, to pay for traffic and to get that traffic to convert wasn't materializing in the same way. So Andrea, from an execution standpoint, how is your team thinking about this? Because you're watching CPL, a cost per lead, double, and traffic is being intercepted, but you can't just disappear from the market. So what are some of the strategic choices that you made to navigate that tension?
This was a moment to stay calm and strategic. We knew costs were rising everywhere. So rather than chasing the cheap leads, we focused on what really predicts success. And when it comes down to it, it's cost per start. We optimized towards intent and quality, and search remained the lead driver, but we diversified across Meta for reach and then LinkedIn for precision targeting. So it really was focused on what the end game is. We know if students aren't enrolling, the rest of the work doesn't really matter at the top of the funnel. And so that cost per start really became our driver towards determining what our strategies were.
What were some of the results that the team saw by focusing on cost per start and not over-indexing on cost per lead?
Specifically for the work that we do at CSU-MB, we saw impressions increase 10% on Google search, while CTR declined by almost 7%, but we still achieved a 53% lift in conversion and a 32% drop in cost per lead. That came from refining the keyword strategy and refreshing creative mid-cycle, which I think is an important step in this process. A lot of institutions are setting and forgetting the creative piece. So that refresh based on what we were seeing in the results was a super important step. And then making sure that every touch point from ad to landing page reinforced the ROI and the outcomes that we were driving towards. And so efficiency, though, today isn't just about lower spend, it's about smarter spend. And so our model protected the performance through the targeting, the discipline, and really the constant optimization.
That's fantastic. Let's connect these two threads. So AI discovery and workforce relevance. And one of the things that we're seeing in the data is that when universities can articulate clear career outcomes and workforce alignment in their content, that they perform better in AI-driven search, which is so important when you're facing headwinds in a channel that you have come to rely on, like paid media. We know that LLMs are more likely to cite sources that answer specific questions about ROI, about salary impact, about skill development and job placement. Do you see that connection between academic relevance and discovery visibility?
I think it all comes down to living your values as an institution, to getting really clear about who you are so that you can communicate that and that you can also deliver that, and that everyone can trust your brand so that they know what they're getting when they sign up. And so we have to have all those pieces connected. And then that's, again, what provides the data that AI is scraping and making sure that that's then what gets in front of the prospective consumer.
Yeah, that's such a good point around brand and the role that brand has in it. It's not just pulling all the technical levers, like how your part of your brand is the outcome that you deliver to students. Mm-hmm. And being able to communicate that outcome and structure it in the right way so that it's findable is important. But it's also core to the brand as a whole. So it's not something you're making up for marketing or for the algorithm. It's core to the brand, starts with the outcome for the student, and continuing to anchor back on that is just so critical. And we can't get swept away in all of the change and AI and marketing dynamics. It's still about the student and what the degree promises.
Yeah. And here at CSU-MB, our degree, it promises career-ready graduates who are socially responsible, career-ready graduates who are ready to make responsible business be their priority. And that shines through. That shines through in all our curriculum and what our instructors are researching in their research time. It shines through in the internships that we have available to our students. And so because that's so true and so central to our programming, it can't help but also show up on the internet in all the data that AI is scraping and that's available to them.
I mean, that ties back to the earlier question around, like, how do you control your value prop, or how do you continue to differentiate when some of the core pieces of the student experience are breaking down? It's like when that is central to your program and it's part of everything that you're doing, the curriculum and the experiences and the internships, then it shines through wherever they meet that information in their journey.
I think it's an interesting thing for us to think about from the marketing side. Students know what they want, right? We know that the pillars on CSU-MB side that we've been focused on are affordability and career outcomes, and your people, that sense of belonging has been a theme. So students know that that's what they're looking for, but they may not tie that directly to CSU-MB when they're starting their search. So finding ways to bring that to the forefront and potentially introducing you to new students is a really exciting part of this process on the marketing side, is figuring out how to bring your brand forward and show them all the great things that they're going to be able to do there, which might be their introduction to you. So it's exciting twist that oftentimes you don't get to that kind of stuff until further down the funnel, but they're looking for that up front because it is something that they find they're building affinity towards for the institution they're selecting.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing more and more programs and brands being able to compete in new spaces by having that strong, authentic positioning and optimizing the way that they show up in new spaces, because students who maybe across the country and who are searching for programs with those values are searching in specific ways. And so if you think back to how searches are mapping the intent back to the information that they're able to find across the internet and across different sites and across different digital experiences, they're able to tie that back and surface that information to students who may not even be aware of your program, but are very motivated by, ESG priorities or ethics or responsible business. And so they're able to find a program that really matches their search, which is exciting. It opens up a lot of opportunities for universities.
Yeah, it does. And it also really points to how very competent people are becoming now. It's searching how clear they are about what they want and what they're looking for in the marketplace and their ability to go out and find that for themselves.
Yeah. We talk about how there's the reverse for those of us who were taught and trained on the keyword search and the Boolean keyword search, that's entirely gone away. And I don't know if we're training the tools or the tools are training us, that we can ask these really personalized questions and get a very curated response, and very quickly.
Yeah,
which changes everything.
it sure does.
Suzanne, looking to 2026 with accreditation on the horizon and evolving employer needs and AI redefining discovery, what are your top 1 or 2 strategic priorities for the College of Business?
Well, I've been here for only a couple months, but I already have really clear priorities. The first one is that we will complete AACSB accreditation. That is not just going to be a compliance milestone for us. That is going to provide us with a strategic framework for continuous improvement. And we're going to use that so that we can keep our programs really rigorous and relevant and closely aligned with what our employers need and demand from us. And so what that means is that ultimately every faculty member, course, and partnership is going to contribute to our data-informed cycles of continuous learning and improvement and excellence. So that's the first priority, AACSB. The second priority is to double down on workforce and community alignment. We promise that our graduates are career ready and ready to deeply engage in their communities. So our programs in sustainable hospitality, agribusiness, responsible business, they're all already tightly connected to our regional industries. And so the next step is really how do we expand those partnerships to grow our experiential learning, to grow digital fluency and ethical leadership development so that every graduate really is truly career ready and community minded. The indicators that are going to tell me if our strategies are working or not are going to be very clear. We're going to have really strong accreditation outcomes. We're going to have really good growth in our employer partnerships. We're going to have rising student satisfaction and placement rates. And of course, we're going to always maintain our excellent faculty in teaching and research. Beyond those metrics, though, the hard data, success is going to mean that when people across the Central Coast think about business education that is really forward-looking and values-driven, they're going to think about us. They're going to think about CSU-MB. That's the vision. Graduates and partners who deeply embody the ideals of responsible business and community engagement with resilience and grit.
So much of that really speaks to the ability to align to the market, to employers, to the student and to their careers, and understanding those needs and bringing those to the forefront in programs. And I think that's, Andrea, one of the core challenges that universities are facing. If you're talking to another enrollment marketing leader who's feeling the squeeze of finding this alignment between career outcomes and AI disruption, what's your advice? Where should they start?
That's a tough thing because they have so much to prioritize right now. I'd tell them to start by connecting their differentiation to how AI and students both evaluate credibility. And that means designing every content touch point, program pages, articles, microsites, et cetera, to align with the questions prospects actually ask. For example, at CSU-MB, we're expanding AI SEO to reach those early discovery moments while we're still focused on improving down funnel conversion experience. So it's important to focus on what matters, the cost per start, as I mentioned earlier, and not the cost per lead. And when we focus on the clarity and authority and an intent to that content, you can outperform market headwinds every time.
Last question for both of you. What's the one thing you're watching most closely over the next year?
For us here on campus, what we're looking at is enrollments, but that's a little bit of a more complicated question. We want to be bringing students in, making sure that our pipeline is full. Also, though, once they're here on campus, we want to be retaining them. We want them to be successful here. We want them to be happy here. And so we're really working on making sure the process doesn't just end with getting them here. It ends with keeping them here until they graduate and seeing them successfully launch, start those first careers.
There's absolutely a theme here that I'm keeping my eye on and, watching very closely. And that's how AI discovery translates into the enrollment outcomes. We've had our pulse on it from the beginning as we saw the shift in AI and the importance of visibility. But we've already seen visibility alone doesn't guarantee results. It's the quality of engagement that matters in the end. So the results I've shared earlier from CSU-MB is showing us that there's proof when your content is structured for both humans and machines, performance will just compound. And the indicators I'm tracking are AI citation frequency, the cost per start trends that I've mentioned already, and the conversion quality, and lead source performance, which is an important piece to pay attention to. Together, they tell really the best story of how effectively we're turning visibility into value. Because in the next era of marketing, it's not going to be about showing up everywhere. It's about showing up where it counts and converting when it matters, and are the new compass points for marketing leaders navigating the AI era.
Thank you. I love this conversation on kind of that balance between human and machine and authenticity and optimization, and how both can come together to really not just drive meaningful results from, a performance perspective, but meaningful results for a student in their careers and where they go after. So thank you. And thanks to everyone tuning in to this episode of First Movers. We're really excited to bring these conversations to the forefront and show you what other university leaders are doing that works, what bold ideas they're trying, and navigate a whole lot of change together. So thank you for joining.
The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.